All right. What we have is a ticket, and for reference, it's ticket 109813. I was asked to try to figure out why they couldn't sell or they couldn't invoice this particular customer. What's happening is if you come down here and try to do anything to this invoice, you can see that it has an exempt tax on it. And if you recalc the invoice, you're getting an error of 14909. Now, the suspicious thing about this invoice is this is marked as exempt, and as we all know, the exempt tax stuff does work. So it's a little odd that we would be getting an error message trying to put an exempt customer on this invoice or an exempt tax rate. So I started looking a little bit deeper than the tax code because the tax code just doesn't make any sense that it would stop working. So what I did first is I closed this control and I started looking at these parts. And you'll notice here, if I drop the arrow down here, this very first part says that it has an exempt tax on it, or an excise tax of exempt, which is not possible. Or let me say not correct. It's not possible any longer to do this, but it is possible that we have dealers that have an exempt tax on the excise tax for a part before we added the guardrail to stop them from doing it, because we didn't anticipate them doing anything like this in the past. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to go over here. Actually, we're going to go over here to reports first, and we're going to go to the parts inventory. We're going to come all the way down here at the bottom, and there's a report here for items with excise taxes. I'm going to click on it, and you'll notice that there is the part number, and it has an exempt tax on it. This should not ever happen. The reason is that parts, if we go over here and look at this part, parts actually have a checkbox here for whether or not they're taxable. So you would never add an excise tax to the part simply because it's not taxable. So you should never add exempt. So what we're going to do to fix this is just delete this exempt tax from the part. So we'll delete that. And then to show you what I'm talking about when I say it's not possible, you'll notice when I try to add a part now, it is eliminating any exempt taxes and any non excise taxes from this list. So now they can only choose taxes that are tagged as excise taxes. In this particular dealership, they have none, and so they would never be able to pick that excise tax in the going forward. It's just something that they had done prior to us adding the guardrail, and now they've put this part on an invoice that's caused a problem. So to fix the problem, all we had to do is delete the excise tax. And now if we come back over here to the invoice and we select this and hit recalc, we still get an error message. So I'll have to look into this, but let's see, let me delete this off. We may have to reset this thing. Okay. So the next problem is that excise tax status is actually put on here with the part. And so to actually fix this invoice, we're going to have to delete this part off and put it back on here so that when it gets put back on, it doesn't have this exempt. We may be able to actually edit it. No, we can't change the exempt status except for when it's put on here. So to fix this, we've got to delete this off and put it back on. So we have a quantity of 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this part. And then we'll go back up here to add the part. We'll put the part number back in here. And they must have a alias in here for that particular part. So we'll just pick that. We'll tell it that we want to put 4 of them on the invoice. They're $1 each, add and close. So now the part is back on here. And if you look, there's no exempt part status on there. And so now we can come over here and edit this and hit recalc, and we don't get an error anymore. So just remember, if this has happened and you're already on an invoice, you do have to delete the part off and put it back on to get it to actually work properly.